All right. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. All right. Well, reaching the last mark of the meeting for today, which is on general arrangement drawings. At the end of this meeting, we are going to go ahead and prepare our first GA. All right. So first GA drawings. Okay. Even if it's not complete, we could still go ahead and update it based on the same principles that we have practiced today. So let's continue. Now we are going to go ahead now and place some more views on the sheets. So right now we have our ground floor plan, and I was talking about its the viewport extent. Now if you go ahead and leave it like this, you're going to have some issues when you are exporting this to PDF as it may be. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back and look for that ground floor plan. Now this is where I now get to talk about scope boxes. Now scope boxes allow you to easily set constraints to your views per time. Now this is exactly how a scope box works. Normally we would use the crop region visible. So this is, for instance, if I come here to the extent and I turn on this crop view, if I click on apply, if I zoom out, let me turn on this crop region visible as well, you can see exactly the extent, and this is exactly what causes it to spill out in the sheet. So if I drag this back here, I drag this one here, and I drag this one to the edge here, if I come back here to the sheet view, you can now see that it's now better. But this can be a pain doing this for every individual view, and that's not an efficient way to work. So the best way for you to do this is by you can create a scope box. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn this off for now. To create a scope box, what we need to do is that we need to come over here to the view tab, if I remember correctly. Under create, you're going to see here scope box. So I'm going to click here to create a new scope box, and it's like drawing a rectangle. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to click and draw over the edges of the building. So I'm going to click from here, and you can see it's highlighted as a grid line by default, and I click here. Now when I've drawn the scope box, I can go ahead and give it a name. So I'm going to call this here main building, and I'm going to click on apply. Now the scope box will appear in every single view. So if I go to, for instance, to the first floor plan, you can see it is there as well. This also appears in elevation views also. If I go to the south plan, you will be able to see it. Right now I can't see it because it's not turned on in my visibility graphics, but if I go to the 3D view, you can see it is here as well. Now it is also important that the scope box also is actually showing the full elevation of the building. So if I click on front, for instance, you can see right now it is showing here, it's allowing you to go to the top, and that's okay. Let me just drag it down a bit. I also want to drag this up here because we are going to end up having foundation. So it is just like a section box, but it enables you to set extents. Now how does this work? If I go back here to my ground floor plan, after creating the scope box, I can go ahead now and come down here. Under extents, instead of going to set and then manage the crop view, we see a scope box. If I come over here and then change this here to main building, and if I click on apply, you can see automatically it's going to crop it to that view. If I turn off crop region visible and click on apply, you're going to notice that it's going to be set to that. And if I go to the ground floor plan, you can see as well it has been set to that extent, meaning I don't have to do it manually. Now one last thing we have over here is that we still have this elevation mark showing. So to take care of that, all I can do is I can make a selection over it like this, and you have to make sure that there are two things selected. So I now use my arrow key, that's my left arrow key, to nudge it backwards until it's no longer showing in view. If I come back here to my ground floor plan, yes, that's a lot much better to look at. Let's go ahead and create our first floor plan. So I come back here to where we have sheets. Right click on this, I duplicate, and I duplicate an empty sheet. At this point here, I feel it's a good point for me to save. The reason why I don't want to save is because it should sync, and that will reduce the upload speed that I'm using to send this project. So right now it's uploading. It's also uploading all the backups as well, and deleting the other backups. So if there is a lag in the meeting at any point, just let me know, so I would wait a while. Now the duplicated view here, I'm going to change this here. Let's call this here first floor plan. Now for the first floor plan, as you might have guessed, I need to drag this plan from here into this view. Alright, so good. So just like you might have guessed, we have that same issue. So what I can do is that I can click on it, then come over here, change this scope box setting to main building, and if I click on apply, I'm not going to have that issue again, just like that. Likewise as well, you can also add the scope box as a view template listing into that view, so you don't have to be doing it manually. But I prefer like this because there may be cases where I want to change it manually. You can see for this view here, it doesn't have that scale of 1:75. If I wanted it to be 1:75 constantly, I could come to the view template here and include it, and then change the custom here to 75 like this. But in this case here, I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to turn off the include. So I don't want to make any changes here. I want to change this from here, so let's change this here to custom, and I change this here to 75, and I click on apply. Let's drag it here. Alright, great. Now I don't know about many of you, but I tend to be a perfectionist when I work with arrangement drawings. So for instance, when I print, I want to make sure that my ground floor plan, this is this view by the way, matches my first floor plan. So means the same arrangement, the same position, right? So for instance, if I'm looking through the drawings, they are always going to be aligned. Now how do we do that? To do that, we have various ways we can do it. So what we could do is we could create what we call a guide grid. Now the guide grid seems to be a very longer method, but let me show you how it works. These are some of those tips that just help it work efficiently in Revit. If I click on guide grid, right, I can go ahead and create the guide grid. So I'm just going to call it my A2 guide grid. If I click OK, it creates a guide grid around my sheets. If I click on the guide grid, I can extend the guide grids to the title blocks like this. So if I drag it down like this here, I'm going to drag it here, going to drag this one just to the edge. Now you don't need to worry about the guide grid showing on your title block. I'll show you the reason why we need it eventually. Alright, good. So I've adjusted my guide grid. Now if your guide grid doesn't show exactly like mine, all you need to do is come here without selecting anything in the sheet view, and then under order you see a guide grid. So I can either turn it off when I'm not using it or turn it back on. Now it's not going to appear when you print, so don't need to worry about that. Now in this case here, we can see that my guide grid here starts at 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I want this line 1 here, line 1 to align to this guide grid here. So what I can do is that I can use my alignment command. So if I go to modify and I click on align, so we want it to align to the first line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I click on this line as the reference point, and I click on, I can't use the alignment command. So what I do is I click on my viewport. So I click on the viewport just once. Make sure that your viewport is not activated. So that means that you can still click and drag it around just like this, okay? And then what I do is that I click on the move command here, and make sure that none of these two options are turned on, so constraint or disjoin. If I click here and then move it here, you can see now that I can click on the line 1 and align it to this grid line here. Likewise as well, I want to align D to this line here. Alright, so I can as well go ahead and click on move to, click here and align this to this. Alright, good. Alright, so now you can see that it's fits here. Now I will do the same thing as well to my other views. If I go to the ground floor plan, I can go over here and turn on the guide grid. So you see that same A2 guide grid. We know that this one here, if I click on it, I'm going to use my move command. Shortcut for move is MV by the way. And I've done that just like that. So you have to count it. So if I switch between my first floor and my ground floor, you can see here that they are now at the same place here. So this is 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 6. If I come here as well, this is 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right, good. So if I turn off my guide grid now, I can now see it says fits in view. All right, good. So this seems like an extra step, but I do always enjoy having them fits like this. All right, great. Hope you're enjoying the program. We're about to finish up. I do also want to ask and apologize for time fast spent in the third part just before we went for the break. Okay, now let's go ahead and then still modify this a bit. Now we want to add dimension lines. Add dimension lines. So to add dimension lines, I'm just going to go here to my ground floor plan. And a good way to add dimension plans is at areas where we will need them. So for instance, we need them at the side, we need them at the top, and we need the full length as well. To use the dimension command, I can come here to the annotate tab, and in the annotate tab here, you are going to see, or rather, sorry about that, modify tab. So sorry, going back to AutoCAD. So if you come back here to the modify tab, you're going to see here the measure command. So that is align dimension. If I click here, I want to apply the dimension in between grid lines. So I'm going to click here. Alright, seems I can't place them. Hold on, let me see. Alright, seems I'm having an issue with selecting some of these elements here. Hold on, let me check. So maybe this is a glitch. Alright. Let me close this. Alright, so sorry about this. Alright, so by the way, also if you have this title blocks to open, you can go ahead and just close it. I don't want to make any changes to it for now. Alright, good. So I'm going to go and open up my ground floor plan. We want to place dimensions. Okay, great. So I can now select it. So some of those very strange gimmicks that happen in Revit. Alright, so now if I come over here and click on align dimension, I'm going to select this as my first reference point. And right now, dimensions also have their own styles as well. You're going to see quite a number inside here. But let's use this arrow 2.5 mm dimension. We have quite a lot as well. We have arrow 2.5, and that's the size of the text on the dimension. We have field, we have diagonal, all of this going all the way down. We're going to create our own, so just select one for now. I'm going to click on D, go to C, go to B, go to A. Then when I'm done, I just click outside to place the dimension. Likewise as well, I also want to place a dimension to show the full length. To do that, I just go over here and back here and click on dimension. So I click from D and go all the way to A. So I just place the dimension just like this. And you notice that there's going to be some sort of snapping when you move it just above or below the dimension. So in this case, I want to move it above. If I click here, I'll place that dimension. Now, this dimension here, let's go and modify it a bit to make it feel like ours. To do that, I click on this first dimension over here. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come over here to edit type. I'm going to do quite a number of things. The first thing we're going to do is that we're going to duplicate. And we are going to call this the KU. And we're going to call this design workshop. We're going to call this here the diagonal. And we are going to, or rather, let's not put it diagonal. So we're going to use a 2 mm dimension. So KUDW 2 mm dimension. Let's keep the naming simple. I'm going to click OK. So we've created a new dimension style and it's under the linear dimension. The first thing I want to change here is the text height. Okay, so right now we say it's going to be 2. And looking at it here, 2.5 seems fine. So let's go back here and rename it. So I'm just going to change this here to 2.5 and then click OK. We can also change the color of the dimension. So this changes both the color of the lines and the text. I'm going to change this color from black. Let's go ahead and use our navy blue. Now, consistent color usage in drawings is actually quite useful because it enables you to have a cleaner and softer feel to your drawings. For text, I prefer to have probably a darker shade, so I can use this shade here. You can also take note of the hue, saturation, and luminance as well. And if you wanted to add the color, what you could do is you can select an empty spot, and you can just double click to add the color, and I can change it to the shade I want. If I sorry about that, if I change it to the shade I want, if I click on add, you can now see that that color is here, so I can always select it when I need it later on. After I change this here, I can click on apply to see how it looks like. This here feels a little bit too dark, so let me change this. Alright, good. Now let's change the text style or the text fonts. I'm going to change from Arial to the Revit MS. That's the font I'm using right now. You could choose your own font as well, by the way. I'm going to click on apply. Some of the changes are not being made right now until I click OK, so don't worry about that. Also, I want to change this here to an architectural tick, and that seems a little bit more classic. So under graphics here, you're going to see a tick mark. I'm going to change this from arrow 30 degrees here to let's scroll down. So you see here we have quite a number of arrowheads. I'm going to change it here to diagonal 2 mm and click on apply. At this point, let's click OK and see what we have. Alright, good. So this is what we have as our dimension. You can see that it's only applied to this one. So to change this one, I click on it once. I go ahead and change it to the KUDW that we have. So you can see it looks exactly like this. Let's make some little small changes left. So I'm going to click on edit type. And I'm going to reduce the offsets from the text from the dimension line. And we'll see the option over here. So text offset here. So right now it says to 1.75 mm, and that's how it will appear on paper. 1.75 feels much, so I can change this here to a 1. If I click on apply, I can see it adjusts to the line. And then one last thing I want to change, and this is kind of like a pro tip, is the distance between the snapping between the first dimension and another dimension that may come either above or below it. And you can change the option from here. So we have this option here, witness line, no, not here. Yeah, so we have here dimension line snap distance. So right now it says to 10 mm. So that means the distance from here to here will be 10 mm, and you just feel a snap when you try to place it. In this case here, I feel 10 mm is quite large, so I may change it to probably like a 7 or 6. Let's change it to a 6. If I click on apply and OK, when I try to click on this line, for instance, or this dimension, and drag it down, you see that it now snaps just below it, making it easier for me to place. Now let's use that same dimension style and then put it over here in this direction. So what I can do is come back here and click on measure, and then I can click from here, or rather, before I actually place it, I can change the dimension style. I'll change it to KUDW. Can click here, and then continue placing from here to here until I have it. And then when I'm done, I just click here to place it. I can click here to here to place that my dimension, and if I move it up, you can see where it snaps. Now for simplicity, there isn't any need for you to place it at the top or the sides, especially when they have similar geometry. Now one last thing I need to do here is need to specify the height from here. So I can click on one of these dimensions here, and you see the option to edit witness line. So I can click on this edge here, and that's like a 800 mm offset. Likewise as well, if I click here, I can place the offset from here. If I have it on the other side as well, I can do the same thing. If I click here, I can place an offset distance. And because I have done this on the ground floor, if I go to, for instance, here the sheet view, you can see it has been placed here as well. Okay, so wow, at this point here we're already at 8 a.m. I feel we still have just a bit to cover, but I always do respect everybody's time as it may be. So I'm going to ask, could we spare the next 20 minutes, if that's fine with everybody, so we could conclude for today. I want to get to the stage where everybody can export their drawings, or the general arrangement drawings. So if that's fine, just let me know if you're okay with that. Just want to get a general feel. All right, so Razal give it thumbs up. All right, let me just get to it. So Deborah gave it thumbs up as well. Okay, all right, that's fine. Just let me wait a bit. All right, Felix gave it thumbs up. All right, great. All right, thank you. All right, so let's try and finish up. There's quite a number of things I do want to cover before we go ahead without rushing. So now that we've placed dimensions, if I go here to the ground floor plan, what I could do is that I can go ahead and select all of these dimensions here and then copy it to the first floor, as long as I have similar references, so the grid lines in this case. If I click on one dimension and right click on it, you see the option here, select all instances, and I'm going to click visible in view. So it's going to select all the dimensions here. What I'm going to do is that at the top of my screen under modify dimensions, I'm going to click on copy to clipboard. Now I'm going to come here to my first floor plan, and because I have some sort of similar reference, which are the grid lines, if I come over here to the clipboard and click on paste, we have the paste drop down here. I'm going to click on aligned, or I'm going to click on align to current view. If I place that, you can see that those dimensions will be placed. And in the cases where we have those extensions, it's going to cut them off, making it easier for me. You can see that we have this slab over here. So what I could do is that I can make a separate dimension here. Shortcut for dimension, by the way, is DI. So if I click here, I can make a first dimension from here, and I can make another dimension from here. So just an individual one. And because they are referenced, if I go here to my sheet view, you can see that as well. Now, let's go ahead and modify the grid lines. Now, because we are actually building a template as we go on, we want to make sure that we can do this as well. So I'm going to come over here to any of the plan views. And if I click on the grid line, and you're going to see that the grid line has some settings. I'm going to click on the edit type, and we're going to create our own grid line type. But we need to understand exactly what is there. So right now we see that the symbol on the grid line has a family. Right, so I'm going to find that family and modify that later on. But before we do this, let's go ahead and duplicate this. Let's call this the 5. Let's call it a 5 mm bubble. Now the reason why I call it 5 mm bubble is that I want to reduce the size of the bubble. I feel is quite large. Alright. And then once I've done that, I can as well also set the color for my grid line. I always prefer to use a lighter color, so probably like a gray color here. I'm going to leave all of these settings as defaults, and I'm going to click on apply. Alright, so once I've done that, let's go ahead and search for this m_grid head. To find it, I'm just going to come here to the project browser and search for it exactly as it says, so m_grid head. Okay, so that is grid head circle 2. So we see it here. If I click on it over here, so we have the family and then we have the type. If I right click on it, I have the option here to to find the type properties. So if I click on type properties, I can change the size of the radius. So I'm going to change it here to 5, and I'm going to click on apply. Right, so that makes it a little bit much more elegant. Let's click OK. So after that as well, what I want to do is that I want to go ahead and change the font style and the color for the grid line. Now this depends on how you want it to be. I'm going to go ahead and right click on the family, and then you see the option here to edit. Like I said before, proper presentation is quite good. So it has opened up a family editor. I'm going to click on this label over here, and I'm going to click on edit type. Under the edit type, I'm going to change the color here to this our blue color. Remember, consistent color is good. And I'm also going to change this font style here to the TrueBet MS. Let's click on apply and OK. Now I'm going to click on load into projects, and when I do that, it's going to overwrite anything I had before. So I'm going to click on overwrite, and now it has changed it to this field. So I'm going to close this back. That's the family editor. I don't want to save it. All right, so we have this. Now if I go back here, let's see how we have it on the ground floor. All right, so that looks a lot much neater. Okay. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and just create the views that we need. So something I do have to mention as well is that the task that we have, or the first task after this meeting, is that everybody should be able to create their own general arrangement drawings, and you're going to be posting them, or the PDF drawings that we create, on your students folders, and you're also going to be sending screenshots. I prefer screenshots, so you can see what you are doing. You're going to be sending them to the shopping complex channel on the Slack platform, and I'm just going to show you exactly what it looks like. So I'm going to just give an introduction when you get there. So you're going to be posting your screenshots here on the shopping complex plus, and that's going to show us that you are following or you have gone through the task. Okay. Likewise as well, you can go ahead and be free to choose any colors of your choice, right? So this, we get to see your aesthetic nature as an engineer as well. Okay. All right, so now we've done this, let's go ahead and do some other things. And bless me, so we're going to place tags. Tags are very useful. Now do keep in mind that we haven't gone ahead and finished modeling everything on the structure, so we still have those first floor columns, and we need the roof beams as well. But when we meet next, we'll be able to do that, or continue if you understand the concepts. But we need to place tags. Now if I go, for instance, here to my ground floor plan, here we have columns here, and what I want to do is that I want to tag the column. Let me come here to the ground floor plan where I can edit it. All right, so if I click on this column, for instance, here we need to indicate that this column here is a particular value. You know, so it could be C1, it could be C2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I click on the column first, and then under identity data, you're going to see an option here for mark. I'm going to put here C1, and I'm going to put apply. Now I need to attach a tag to it. Now we need a family for the column tag. Now if I come, for instance, here to the annotate tab, and I click on tag by category, if I move to the column here, you're going to see a tag attached to the column, and that tag is just showing the column size. You also see as well it attaches a leader based on the settings here. I'm going to turn it off and move it to the column. Now when I click to place it, and I click on modify again, you can see that it's going to match the column size. Now the beauty about Revit is that if I go ahead, for instance, and click on the column and change it to a different size, the tag will also update as well. But I'm going to change this back here to the former size, so let me just undo. Now this tag here feels a bit ugly. Now you can actually go ahead and customize your tags, and what I've done ahead of time is I've created families for those. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come here. Let me show you how to download it, if I remember. So apart from the title blocks, in your folder as well, you also see element tags. So I'm going to open up element tags here, and I have structural columns. So structural columns. So we have a tag that I've created for everybody to use. I'm going to go ahead and download this. Alright, so I'm just going to save it to my downloads. So once I've saved it, you can see here we have a structural columns tags.rfa for the Revit family types. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and because I saved it in 2023, I need to upgrade. All right, good. So we have this tag. Now this tag here is set to show both the column mark and then the type. So what I am going to do, hold on. All right, so please give me a minute. I need to confirm something. Uh, all right, great. Sorry, I lost connection with my other screen for a while. Okay, so now that we're back, let's go back here into Revit. So we have a tag, and this tag shows the mark and then the type. So what I do is I load it into the project. Okay, good. So once I've done this, I want to come back here to my ground floor plan. And if you have a lot of views open at the top, remember you could just come over here and close inactive views, so to keep it simple. Now that I've done that, I can click on modify. The tag command is active. If I click on any tag that I've created before, if I click on this one for instance, or go back to tag by category under the annotate tab, let's click on this one we have so far. I can now change it to the new type, which is the structural column tag that we just imported. And there we go. We've gone ahead and placed a tag on the column. Now if I go back and click on tag by category and then move to another column for instance, you can see that it takes this tag, but because that column doesn't have it doesn't have a mark, that's why we can't see a tag on it. Likewise as well, to use the tag by category, if I come back here to this, I can as well go ahead and place if I go back here to the annotate tab rather, contact sorry, bless me, sorry. If I come back here to the annotate tab and you see this option here, tag all, so you can easily tag all columns based on a view. So you can see here that I want to select object in current view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for my structural columns category. So I'm going to check this and I'm going to select the tag type. So in this case here, the structural column tag that we want. I can also set the orientation, the leader if I want to, but I'm going to leave it as default. If I click on apply and I click OK, you can see that just like that, I've gone ahead and placed all the tags. And the beauty is that if I click on this column, for instance, and I go over here and give it a mark like C2, if I click on apply, you can see here that it will be updated on the tag. Now, I know some of you may feel this may be a lengthy process. Now, in Revit, we have scripts that can be used to automate this. These are basically written programs that will enable you to fast track this process. But we won't cover that now because of time. We would cover it later on when the time is fit. Likewise as well, we'll do that for beams. Right now on the ground floor plan, we don't have any beams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the first floor plan and I'm going to download the structural framing tag. So if I come here, let me see. Alright, so in element tags in your folder you see structural framing. If I go for instance here, I'm going to download this option. Save it to my computer. So I have the structural framing tag. I'm going to upgrade the model just like we've been doing. Just gonna wait for it to load. All right, good. So I can load it into the project. Now, if I wanted to close this after I load it into the project, I can click on load and load into projects and close. So I think that's best so I don't have it spill. Now we have two cases where we have multiple projects open. So we still have that column tag family open. So we want to import it just to our Revit, our LBS gas filling station structural. So you select this one. So I click on that. All right, good. Now we don't have any beams here. So what I need to do is I need to come and search for 1F. And I move and select the tag by category again. And I move to a beam. So you can see that if I place it on this beam, for instance, here, if I click on modify, you can see that this beam has a tag, but it has this border around it. So if I click on the beam, it has two types. It has the boxed and the standard. So I'm going to change it here to standard. And this beam tag has been set in a way that if I, for instance, click on the beam and I change the mark here to, let's call this 1 BM. This is beam 1 BM1. Let's call this 1 BM1. So that's the first beam on the first floor. You can see as well that it will show the name. Now if we have issues like this, we can easily adjust that in the editor, in the family editor. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to click on edit family. Now I'm going to click on the tag just once and then drag this out a bit so it will allow more space for the tag name. If I click load into project and close and I click OK, I don't want to save now. It's going to overwrite the existing version and place it just above it. All right, so that we have that. Okay, good. So you could go ahead and place the tags for other beams as well. All right. So at this point here, because I promised we'll finish on time, let's go ahead and export our views. So right now, we have three views that we want to export. So we have the general arrangement 3D. We have this view and we have this scope box. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide the scope box. Forgive me. If I click on the scope box, I can right click, hide in view by category, so we don't see any instance of any scope box again. Now to exit the viewport, I can just double click outside. If I wanted to edit, I double click inside to edit. Let me double click outside. So we want to export this view. We also want to export here the ground floor plan. I want to export the first floor plan as well. So let me zoom out so you can see the sheets. So we have three sheets, so S101 to 103. Now, if you are going to be exporting for your own exercise, you have to go ahead and tag everything just like I have done over here. Now you can use your style just like I've mentioned. Now, how do we go ahead and export this view? To export the view, what you need to do is you need to come over here. Let's see, come over here and you see this option here, PDF, at the top of your screen. Another way you can access it is you can come here to File, and then under Exports, you're going to see here PDF. If I click on PDF, it's going to bring up this window over here. That window is going to allow me to set the number of sheets I want. So I'm going to come over here and click on Selected Sheets. I click on this pencil icon so I can select what I want to export. Over here, I want to export just the general arrangement 3D, ground floor plan, and first floor plan. So I select just these three. Now that I've selected these three, I want to save it as a set. Now I can always modify the sets depending on what I add later on. Remember, we're going to be having the first floor, I mean the roof columns, the first floor columns, and the roof beams as well. So we can come back and edit it here. So I'm going to come here and then you see this option to save as. I'm going to call this general arrangements. Arrangements feels like I've somehow misspelled. Okay, so general arrangement, or let's just call it GA for short. GA. Very good. So you can see that it's just these three for now. If I wanted one to come above the other, we label this 101, 102, 103. But if I wanted 103 to come above 102, I have this option to edit print order, and I can manually edit it or choose the option for descending or ascending orders. So in this case, I can set it from here. I can also click and I can drag it however I want using manual order. I'm going to click OK here, and I'm going to click on select. I don't want to, if you want to save these settings for a future Revit session, I can click on yes. So it's always going to be on GA anytime you bring up PDF exports. Now that's not all. You can also choose where you want to save it to. So over here, I can choose the location. I'm going to leave it as my document for now. And you want to make this option here turned on. So it's going to combine all of this into one document. But if you want to export S101 as a different PDF, S102 as a different PDF, three of them as different PDFs, you can turn this off. Now for this size settings, it's important that you have this like this. So I'm going to change the page setup here. I'm going to turn this here to an ISO A2. That's the size we want. Over here as well, the orientation, leave it on automatic. Zoom, leave it on fit to page. But for the placement, change it here to offset to corner. And over here for the create output, just leave it on vector. Anywhere it recognizes that there is need for a raster print, it will automatically change it. So we'll talk about this as we go on. Now if I leave all of this as default and I go ahead and click on export, by the way, you can also change the file name if you are not comfortable with this. So I'm probably going to remove this 2024 here. I'll call this structural GA because it's not the full structural package. If I click on export, it still asks me if I want to save this for a future Revit session. Click on yes. So let's just call this A3 prints, or let's just call this A3 prints. Okay. So if I click on export, you see here at this side here the time it will take to export, and also what is exporting per time. Now this may take longer depending on how many sheets that you have active. All right, so you can see the process is almost done. All right, good. And you see some warnings because I have some shadows, all of that, and you see that it's going to show that some of those things were changed to rasters. Now if I come over here and I go to my documents, I'm going to go ahead and load this up in let me just open it in my browser because of time. All right, good. So we can see our 3D drawing. Let me zoom out a bit. Okay, good. So we see our drawings over here. Hold on while it's still loading. All right, so we see also our plan view, and then we also see here this view as well, right? All right, pretty nice. Now we're having issues over here with the presentation. Sorry, this seems to still taking time with this view here, and the reason for that is because of the shadows. Now there is a way to rectify it, and all you need to do is just come back here to the general arrangements, and for now let's just turn off shadows. In a later class I'll show you how to rectify it. So if you turn off the shadows and you export again, you are not going to be having the issues with this pixelation as it may seem over here. All right. Okay, right. So we've been able to go ahead and create our first set of general arrangement drawings. Now, one last thing I beg of you, so sorry about the time fast spent again. We've shot into about 5 minutes extra. Is that I would also expect everybody here to also change these settings like this. So for instance, on the drawn by, designed by, or rather drawn by for now, so change it to your name. So all you could do is you click on the title block and then come over here and check for drawn by. You change this here to your name before exporting. So for instance, I put it as my name. If I click on Ayomide and I click on apply, you can see that it will be changed here. Now, if I want to do it for multiple sheets at the same time, I can right click on one of the title blocks select all instances in the entire project, and right now we have 3 of those title blocks. I can change it to Ayomide all at once without having to go and change it individually. So once you've done that, you can now go ahead and now export. All right, great. So we've been able to cover quite a lot, if I must say so myself, in this meeting, and I do hope that everybody was able to gain something. Like I do always emphasize at the end of the meeting, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Also, practice is very pivotal at this point, because we would be having a task where you get to share exactly what you've done so far, and that will start exactly from today, and throughout the course of the week we'll be seeing your progress so far. All right, so at this point we're going to be calling the meeting to a close. I apologize for the time fast spent. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know before we close the meeting. All right, so right now, in the absence of any questions, I believe I'll call the meeting to a close. All right, so once again, I appreciate everybody for being here. I hope you had a very lovely session. I would make the recording for this available as soon as possible so you can follow along as well and practice. And that will most likely be in the next hour or so. And you can find that in your recordings materials folder, in the recordings folder in it. So yeah, that's it. So thank you again. We look forward to seeing you in our next meeting. Information on that will be passed to you via your Gmail and Google Calendar. Right. Do have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next time.